we get back into the Parko story. Looks like he already got a wave here.
Yeah, Joel off to a quick start, trying to put the pressure on Matty Wilco. Some beautiful trademark stuff there from Joel. And then throws that tail out, just lets the fin slide a little bit. So 3 solid turns for Joel Parkinson. And can we say up into the excellent range, Joe? The judges loved that opening wave from Joel.
Quick start for Parko, an 8.67. So Wilco already with his back against the wall, and Joel has another wave. Jams it off the lip, deep bottom turn, straight up vert, but he overdoes it off the top and goes down. He's about to put Wilco in a quick combination spot. Just getting 2 quick waves, and the key thing is Wilco couldn't get involved with that last ride.
Yeah, well, Matty Wilco just with a 1.5 on his opening account right there. You know, he's going to wait for a certain kind of wave. I think he's been watching it. He watched what Nat Young did, you know. You can't control what your opponent's going to do. So you just got to forget about what Joel's doing right now. 8.67, okay, that's a great score, but you need to back it up. We've seen a lot of occasions this year where surfers have been unable to back those good scores up and gone down. You know, we've even seen guys lose with 10-point rides, Joe. So it's all about 2 solid waves, and you're only as good as your backup.
So true. So right now, Parko will work on improving that 2.5. He's always due for a quick start. Loves to get the first wave of all of his matchups. Had a challenging heat against Melling earlier, but now with this right setting up, offering multiple turns, you're just waiting to see what Wilco's going to have in store for us. Nat Young got that radical backhand approach, and Wilco gets just as radical, but has his own unique lines, and especially his transitions are beautiful to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got that real low center of gravity, bottom turn, gets that body all the way around and just drives it up into the lip. So Matty Wilco's got that backside whip as well, where he flicks the fins out and almost gets the board out of the water, facing back, the fins facing back towards the beach. So look for him to mix it up. He's going to have to if he's going to take down Joel.
Matt Wilkinson caught up with the World Surf League. You can check out that interview on worldsurfleague.com, and just said how almost not requalifying a couple of times really rattled him a bit. He realized that he wanted this big time. He started working with different people early, like Andy King, who's still on hand. Also now recently picking up Glenn Hall full time. It's just someone that gets him to do things he normally doesn't think of. Working out his boards, getting him in the water more often than not. You look at the previous matchup spots, a little ominous for Wilco, as Parko is still undefeated with 5 wins.
Well, I know one thing he's done for Matty Wilco, and that's make him get a haircut and have a shave. And it seems to be working for him. But, you know, I like the fact, I mean, we had him on the Dawn Patrol the other day, and he just looks way more focused, you know, way more in control, and, you know, and basically put it out there saying, look, I want to be in the top 10. You know, I'm tired of just making up the numbers on tour. You know, he realizes the talent that he's got, and I like the fact that he's thrown it out there to be in the top 10.
Liking that right now. Wilco still needs a 9.67 to take the lead off Joel Parkinson. Let's now think about that last heat. It was Nat Young who took out Sebastian Zietz with a huge combined total. Strider, how's he feeling?
Yeah, Nat Young feeling great after that heat. Highest wave of the heat, or of the day so far. You know, you came up against an in rhythm, in form Seabass. You must have been thinking about it before you paddled out.
Yeah, I definitely was. Seabass has been ripping a lot lately. Like, I mean, he's always ripping, but as of lately, he's been surfing really, really well. So I knew it was going to be a really tough heat, and I just wanted to go out there and give myself opportunities. And, you know, I felt like I was surfing well. I just needed to get on those waves and just give myself chances. And, you know, I got behind from the start. Seabass kind of started out good, and I was just like, I'm going to battle back. You know, I really want this, and I'm stoked I made through.
We've seen you go to the air before, but you're just getting it done on the face. You must be thinking about that when you're out in a heat.
Yeah, I mean, I can't land airs as like consistently as certain people. I can land airs, but I just didn't want to ruin an opportunity I got by, you know, going for an air and falling, and if I would have lost, I would have looked back at that like that's why I lost. So I just wanted to put myself in a better position and then try to, you know, go to the air.
Well, good fight back into it. Can't wait to see you in round 4. Congrats, Nat.
Thank you.
Nat Young off into round 4 action. He'll be in round 4, heat number 2. A lot of representation from the USA in round 4. Kolohe, Brett take on Toledo. Toledo now lives in San Clemente, California. And Nat Young will take on the winner of this heat and also the winner of the matchup with Mick Fanning and Frederico Morais, which is right around the corner.
Yeah, that's right around the corner, Joe. It's going to be on, that's for sure. But I like Nat's, strategy. Realizing that he was going to go to his strengths. Didn't want to blow an opportunity. Realizing that there's not a lot of good waves out there. On a full doing in air, and then look back and realize that's why you lost. So, smart kid. And I think he's surfing really good at the moment. And if he can keep that kind of form going, it's going to be hard to beat.
Very true. Earlier today in Parco's heat with Melling, we were kind of talking about how Parco uses the FCS 1 plugs in his board because he wants to feel the flex more on his surfboard. So he uses the old system. He goes even further with the tails of his boards. More often than not, you're seeing the carbon fiber on the tails of surfboards. He doesn't want to use that. He uses cloth patches. Says it compresses the tails more, but he believes that they're just a little bit more lively. Not everyone on the JS program does it. Guys like Julian, Owen, Dusty, Ace, those guys use like a hybrid fiber, which is a stronger fiber in their tails. But I'm just so intrigued on how meticulous that Joe Parkinson gets with every single part of his surfboard.
That's why I'm not getting the zip out of the boards. That's how much these guys look into it, and that's the kind of thing that gives him that extra little bit that he thinks that he needs, and it's like a science. I mean, we've gone to the days of just ordering a board. There's so much more that goes into it, and for Joel to be looking that deep into his equipment, it's going to give him that extra edge. He knows once he gets his feet on a board, it's going to be that. It's going to give him that zip, that pop. It's going to feel alive, and it's amazing.
Right now, Parco trying to keep his lead, but Wilco's on a left-hander, lay-back hook under the lip, ditches the fins, that he's down again. He'll try to recover, but he won't get credit as he fell back down again. We saw Wilco right before that fall on a backhand attempt. We mentioned how he broke that magic board this morning. Right now, he's just trying to find a finishing move in this matchup.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know if he has actually had a surf on this board before the heat, or did he pull a Kelly? Let's have a look here. Races down the line on his forehand. Beautiful opening turn right there from Matty Wilco. And right there, just lost the fins out the back just a little bit too much. Maybe wasn't anticipating that drift. Kind of lost his balance over his board and with the whitewash, unable to get back on his feet. So a 3.17 due to that one opening maneuver. He was on his way to a good score, Joe.
So now down to the 20-minute mark in heat number 5 of round 3. Parco starting off with a huge number, the 8.67. We think about Parco's boards even further. Some of these guys go through boards so often. He had one board that lasted about 18 months. It was in that 1 year where he was winning everything before he got injured and lost that real first attempt to really clinch that first world title. They still have that board that they kind of will ride here and there these days. It's a little beat up now, but they can reference that as the secret magic weapon that they created a couple of years ago. And JS was kind of able to make his models based on that magic surfboard.
Yeah, and that's what you got to do. I remember having a twin fin, a Glen Pang twin fin that I rode in pretty much everything, backdoor included, and I ended up having that board for about 3 years. And I would pull it out when it was small and gutless, and you just have that extra gear with it. So it's when you find those gems, hang on to them. I mean, they're not going to work in all kinds of conditions, but when you need them, you've got them.
So now 19 minutes on the clock here, round 3, heat number 5. We have Pete Mel downstairs checking out the lineup. Pete, how easy is it to be in the right spot for the best waves right now?
It's not easy at all. Usually you've got those rips with the lower tide. You get to kind of see where that smooth water is. Right now it's all fairly smooth, so it's not really anywhere you can go, okay, there's the rip. I'm going to go snuggle up next to it, and that's where the next wave's going to come. And then we've got that shorter interval in the swell. I'm sitting out here, and all of a sudden, boom, a wave will pop right up. And so there's no way you can kind of look and scan the horizon. You can kind of see a bump, but you don't know really where to go. So it's really quick reaction times. You kind of have to just roam up and down the beach. A lot of kind of haphazard little peaks popping up. So it's really challenging to find quality waves.
Pete, when we think about the heat with Kelly and Brett, it seemed like a positioning issue as there were waves towards the south end. Was that the big difference in that matchup?
Yeah, well, I would say so. I mean, I was down in that south end, and there were several little right chips and some lefts that came coming in down that zone, too. I mean, we've watched pretty much all day long, though, when the bigger sets come, that right is kind of in the spot. and that's kind of on that right in front of the tower and maybe just a little bit to the north. But now with the water's flooded in, it's kind of all up and down the beach, and so it's a bit haphazard.
Well, Pete, we looked at the forecast so often. What makes this venue so challenging to forecast? That's been a common theme over the past few years.
Yeah, no doubt. I couldn't pinpoint one thing. I mean, this is Portugal. It's a really wave-rich region. So sometimes, when the shorter interval, that's, I guess, another reason would be the canyon. Sometimes the way the canyon feeds waves in here, it takes time for swells to kind of compile and come in and actually hit onto this part of the beach. You can look down the beach and see waves, and pumping onto the cliff and be flat right here. But it changes up, and it's just a unique place on the earth. Lots of surf, lots of wind, and the peninsulas feed winds doing different things. So it's just a challenging place to forecast.
Well, thinking about key heats we're having today, Mick Fanning's coming up next, Pete, against Frederico Morais. Looking at the waves, if they stay the same as this matchup, do you think Mick will be heavily favored?
Well, I'd hope that Frederico has a lot of background and I think more than anything, he's just going to have the comforts of being in Portugal and having the crowd support behind him. But it's going to be just as challenging as a lineup as his opponent.
Good man, Pete. We'll be checking in with you throughout this exciting day. Three-time world champ Mick Fanning, defending champ of the Moche Rip Curl Pro Portugal, is coming up next to take on Frederico Morais, who has a huge name in pro surfing, and really because of the damage he's done in this event as a wild card. As we look down the beach pots, we see a left-hander for Matty Wilkinson going for the air. Tail free, he's down. A struggling start for Wilco, and the struggle continues to put a decent number on the board.
Yeah, that last wave, the 3.17, that big opening turn and then fell. You got an opportunity lost, and I mean, these heats fly by. 30 minutes, not a long time to get your act together out there. And just sometimes one mistake can kind of throw you off a little bit and change up your timing, make you sort of feel like you got to do more than you have to, and all of a sudden, before you know it, like Kelly said, that 9 minutes, he said, before he even had a wave, 9 minutes had gone. So your time does fly out there, and with the conditions the way they are, not a lot of opportunity, so you can't afford to blow it.
We're talking a lot about Parco's equipment. Wilco on the Darren Hanley's, solid shaper out of Australia as well, which actually Joel used to ride way back in the day. Same surfboard shaper as what Mick Fanning will be riding in this next matchup. As we look at this positioning again, Potts, these guys on completely different parts of the bank. Joel with priority. Just been waiting to improve on the 2.50. And that little wave is going to roll through. We're talking about certain venues around the world being hard to forecast. There's certain places around the world where almost any surfer can realize when it's going to be good. You can see how the competitors can use that to their advantage. What about if you're on the top 34 and you're surprised by waves, not being able to prepare, not really knowing what the waves will be like?
Well, I think that's part of it, though. I think, you're looking at the best surfers on the planet, so they're kind of prepared for everything. So no matter what, they rock up at the beach, no matter what kind of conditions thrown at them, they're kind of ready for it. And if they're not, they'll paddle out, they'll get a couple of warm-up waves under their belt, and before you know it, they're in rhythm, they've worked it out. So, these guys, that's what makes them so good, is the ability to adapt from this high tide, sort of inconsistent, to, maybe in the next few days, 6 to 10 foot, gnarly, crazy washing machine type conditions. So that's what makes them the best in the world, is that ability to adapt.
So Parco now adjusting his position a little bit down the beach where Wilco's sitting. Just looking to better a 2.5 in his lead with 14 minutes to go. Looks like we have a couple opportunities heading into the contest area right out front. It's going to be Parco. Driving hard off the bottom, clean rip off the lip, jamming the fins out for the finish, and he'll control the tail slide. An exciting finishing move. Always stylish, beautiful flow. That'll get rid of the 2.5 quickly. Wilco moving into position, nothing on offer just yet.
Yeah, nice back up there for Joel, that's for sure. A couple of beautiful turns and, just taking his time. 13.5 to go.
Well, now looking at an exciting matchup to come up next with Mick Fanning sitting on top of the Jeep leaderboard, taking on Frederico Morais. Chelsea Cannell, how do you think this world title race is going to end up?
Well, that's exactly what we wanted to talk about as we see Mick warming up as he does before each and every heat. We're so used to seeing this routine from him, but the thing that's different about this is that we've been talking about world title implications, and this next heat is extremely important for him. He needs to win this event in order to actually clinch a world title, but he also needs Adriana, who's in the heat right after him, to lose this heat. So these next two heats are really extremely important in terms of world title contention and everything that these guys have got on the line right now, Joe.
Thank you very much, Chelsea. I love your hiding spot right there, right next to the locker room.
I'm always right here. He's going to get a restraining order pretty soon, huh?
Love the focus, but the big news on the line, Fanning with a chance to clinch, but he needs to win. And he needs De Souza to go down to Vasco Ribeiro coming up next. So anytime Fanning loses before clinching, it's going to go to pipe. And if De Souza loses in this next heat, we'll get that math all sorted, and we'll see if Mick can go all the way. So it's a little bit out of his hands. So right now, Mick reminding us that he's really focusing on his own game. And one thing he mentioned is he's really planning on it going to pipeline.
Yeah, I mean, Mick knows the caliber of competitor that he's dealing with. De Souza, an amazing competitor. So, Mick's not counting on trying to take it out here. He's just focusing on one heat at a time, making sure that he does what he's got to do to win those heats. Every time he gets through, putting the pressure on De Souza to have to perform as well. So he can't control what De Souza's going to do. Just make sure that he, crosses his T's and dots his I's.
Right-hander setting up for Parko. Hard off the bottom and slips off on the forehand carve. The way before where Parko had the two-turn option, threw his fins out on the inside corner. That was a 5-8-3, and that put Wilco in a combination spot.
Yeah, Matty Wilco, a lot of work to do right now. 11:20 on the clock, so plenty of time. Enough time to get himself out of that combo situation. Couple of sevens, 14.51, so a couple of 7.5s, and he's back in the game. And for Matty Wilco, he's well and truly capable of scores in that range.
Always an entertaining surfer to watch is Matty Wilkinson. Joel Parkinson got the 5-8-3 to put him in combo. Let's have another look.
Yeah, using his priority on this one here, just a couple of quick turns and then throws the tail out right there, realizing that first turn really wasn't too much, more just a transition turn to build that speed to make sure he finishes off with a bang.
This is Wilco, needs to answer back right now. First turn through the whitewater, nice and vertical on the next tack off the top. Still some room left for that backhand weapon. Clean connection off the roof. And he'll just slam it one more time on the inside corner. So starting to open up, searching for a rhythm. Now 10:24 remaining.
Kind of surprised that he's waited this long to actually go to his backhand. You watched Nat Young in the heat before, use it to his great advantage. They're getting some big scores. So, and that was just a little taste of what Matty Wilco can do on his backhand.
Mick Fanning takes the headphones off. And now all focus. Two-time champ here in Portugal. So you can tell he's got a lot of fans. He's a hero to thousands and thousands around the world. And a year for him in 2015 that never could have been predicted. Digging deep, channeling good vibes, taking out a couple big wins, lower trestles, back at Bells Beach. Split the points in the final at the J-Bay Open. And doing his best surfing. Coming up against Frederico Morais in that wild card role. How would a guy like Frederico be feeling right now, Potts?
I think he'd be feeling pretty good. You look at how he performed in that opening round against Kaloe and Adriana, and dropping a 9.47. This is his home. He's comfortable. He's probably sleeping in his own bed. He's got his friends and family around him. There's a partisan crowd on the beach that are right in his corner. So you'd have to say that he's feeling no pressure. And Mick's got to really make sure that he focuses on this one and doesn't take Frederico for, don't underestimate your opponent.
This is Parko. A lot of room on his forehand. Throws it vertical. Plenty of room for the carve. Wraps it into the white water. Now looking for a big finish. Fun inside section to slide the fins out. He'll recover and kick out of there. So last wave for Wilco. The right-hander to come back. A 6-8-3. He did break the combination there. So Wilco is needing a 7-6-8 before Joel's last wave.
And that's how quick you can get yourself out of trouble. So Matty Wilco's kind of waited, maybe in my eyes, a little bit too long to go to that. Let's have a look at this first turn, straight off the bottom, and right here, drives off the bottom and gets that board beautiful and vertical. Nice committed surfing here from Matty Wilco, and it's that backhand rhythm that he gets. Once he connects with that first turn, that's when it starts getting dangerous for his opponents. Joel Parkinson racing down the line here. Nice up through the lip right there. Just tears that lip off. Little wrap around, and then knows he needs something special here to better that 5.83. Slides the tail out right there. So Joel Parkinson always looking to improve on that 2-wave total. Matty Wilco fighting his way back into this heat.
Joel Parkinson always had such a dreamy style to watch. Some people said he made things almost look too easy, where sometimes when he wouldn't get the score, as in the junior series or when he first qualified, people thought maybe he had to make it look harder, add more drama. We're happy that Parko didn't really do that, stuck to that style that we've grown to love, just making things look flawless. When you slow down what Parko does, you realize how committed he is on all of his big moves, all of his turns. But he had to hear that a lot in the early days. He had a lot of people critiquing his style and maybe asking him to make it look hard, but we would want him to make him look flawless all the time.
Yeah, why make it look hard when you can make it look easy? I think that's part of his appeal, is the fact that he does stuff that's so critical and so radical that it seems so effortless for Joel. That's the beauty of his style of surfing. He's considered one of the best in the world and will be for a long time to come, and just don't change anything. So
far so good for Joel Parkinson as he's trying to move into round 4. Matt Wilkinson did get a comeback wave of a 6.83, so needs just a 7.68 to try to move on. Down to 6.5 on the clock. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back in round 3, heat number 5, right after this.
Just as long as you're awake, you're searching for the best wave. Whether you're waking up or you're almost going to sleep, you're just thinking of how you're going to find that best wave. Just that most oil glass, different color barrel.
Welcome back to the Moche Rip Curl Pro. We're into round 3, heat number 5, an all-Aussie battle. Joe Parkinson taking on Matty Wilkinson. Parko started early with an 8.67. He even put Wilco in a combination when he got the 5.83, but Wilco's been fighting back. Got a 6.83 to break the combination, and now he's still hunting down the lead. While we were away, Wilco got a fun-looking right-hander, Potts.
Yeah, and it's that crazy backhand rhythm that once he gets going, it's dangerous. Right there, just connects beautifully. Off the bottom, off the top combo right there. Some major maneuvers from Matty Wilco. He finds a little bonus section through the inside. Just has a little look over his shoulder. Make sure the judges are watching. As we see Joel now races down the line, up and over the top there. Little free fall drop. Sort of wrap around, cut back for Joel, waiting for this wave to stand up for him. Is it going to offer anything else? A little cheese whiz on the inside. So Joel looking to improve on a 5.83. Matty Wilco looking for a 7.68, which I reckon is going to be knocking on the door right there with that last exchange.
Nice back-to-back exchange from Wilco to Parko. That right just opening up. Completely different story from what we saw early in the morning. Those early round heats, the bottom was dropping out. It was all about tube rides. Now it's all about performance on the open face. You have to be ready to adapt on demand. And right now, numbers are dropping for Matt Wilkinson. It's a 7.77. Hitting the jackpot, goes straight to first. Parko now needs a 5.93 on that last wave that he just had. He had the roundhouse cutback and the finish. Should he be close to getting his lead back?
Well, as I said, knocking on the door. Matty Wilco needed a 7.6. He got a 7.7. Joel needs a 5.93. Let's try and think back on that. Through the lip, wrap around, cut back. It's going to be close again, Joe.
Numbers now starting to average out. It does turn into a 6.33. Parko gets the lead right off of Matty Wilkinson. So Joel started in first. Wilco got the lead just for a half a second. Parker was on the wave behind him and earned the 6.33 to get the lead back. 2:45 remaining. Joel undefeated over Wilco in his career. Remember, their last real epic matchup was at the J-Bay Open in the semifinals back in 2014. That was the year it was flawless and pumping. Joel ended up finishing runner-up to Mick that season. But Wilco started kind of taking credit for being the modern-day Mark Occhilupo with some huge scores at Jeffreys Bay.
Yeah, took down Kelly Slater in that year as well. So, and that's a tough thing to do at Jeffreys Bay when it's pumping. Matty Wilco's definitely got the backhand attack as good as any. Well, he needs a little bit more right now with just over 2 minutes remaining. He's got priority, though, so the next wave that comes through, he's got that opportunity. See a little bit of a lump approaching. Is he going to pull the trigger, Joe?
Decides not to. Holding back now with 2 minutes remaining. Watching that wave on our screen, peeling through. Is that a good decision?
Well, that's tough to say, Joe. It's easy sitting here saying you should have gone that, but Matty Wilco knows what kind of wave he needs. It's kind of in that same ballpark as the one he's just had, and the one he just had was about double the size of that. So, I mean, these guys are smart. You know, they know exactly what it's going to take. Try and manufacture a score on a mediocre wave. There's only maybe 2 or 3 guys on the planet that can do that.
Down to 90 seconds remaining for Matt Wilkinson. He said his goal was to move into the top 10 picture, but going up into a tough draw, a man who's had his number. Talked about the heat at J-Bay. They actually had a heat out here at Super Tubos. It was a round 5 matchup. Parco went on to the final series. Parco's goal is just to kind of change this slump of slow results. It's been fun hearing him in post interviews in a place he's never been in his career. He said he's still competitive, still wants to win. Wants to be in the top 10 as well before we close out this season. 53 seconds. Wilco still with priority. Remember, he didn't make a move on that little peak at the 2-minute mark. And now he has 45 seconds to make a decision.
Yeah, it looks like the ocean's not cooperating right now for Matty Wilco. It's going to sort of go a little flat here to the back part of this heat. 30 seconds to go. Matty Wilco needing a 7.24. Just a little bit too late. Joel's answer back, that's 6.33.
And right now, Wilco's realizing it. Now he wishes he had that wave back at the 2-minute mark. There's a little peak starting to show itself, but it might not even set up to where Matt's sitting right there. 5 seconds remaining. He's going to have a dig for it. Into the countdown. The horn's going to sound a little bit too early for Matt Wilkinson. This score will not count, and it'll just burn off some frustration on the inside. Big throw tail, and he stomps it. So Wilco goes down in round 3, but shows us that he is definitely one of the best goofy foots in the world. Hopefully he'll pick up the pace of the Pipe Masters to get a little bit closer to his goal of moving into the top 10.
You know, I like the fact that he went down swinging. You know, he didn't get smoked. He didn't get blown out of the water. He surfed really well. He was in the heat all the way till the bitter end. You know, I don't know, maybe should have gone that one. It's easy to say, like I said, sitting up here, but Matty Wilco's going to be a little bit disappointed with that because he had one hand on that heat and Joel Parkinson just pipped him at the post.
Right there, an important win for Joel Parkinson, kind of sitting close to that cutoff for requalification. 15-point total brings him into round 4 to take on Nat Young later on in this contest. Now, a huge heat for the world title race. World number 1, Mick Fanning takes on local wildcard Frederico Morais. We'll bring in Ronnie Blakey and Ross Williams for the call right after this.
Dip your nose in this? Yeah.
I just had a banana. It's pretty good.
it's really tricky. It breaks fast, and yeah, you got to get a lot done real quick. Can't cover guys. You never know where the peak's going to come, and yeah, you just got to keep moving. Like, you can't just sit and relax.
You know, I'm a wild card. I have nothing to lose, and at this point, he has something to lose. You know, we need to be selfish and think about ourselves and do our job as well, and try to make the most of it, make the most of this opportunity.
Well, welcome back. Well, one of the big heats of the third round hitting the lineup now. It's Mick Fanning up against Frederico Morais as Joel Parkinson won through in that last clash. Let's see which one of these competitors will be joining Joel and Nat Young in the second heat of round 4. Fanny's got his work cut out during the break. Frederico Morais, the injury replacement from Portugal. Well, he opened up with a very strong ride, still waiting on the numbers to drop, but have a look at the power in this first turn.
Watch this hackaroonie. Big old meat hook. That was one of the best turns we've seen in this event right here, Ronnie. And then he's going to finish it off nice and tidy. Great closeout maneuver. The whole beach just went mental right there. So what a start. Grabbing that energy from the crowd as the local wild card should. And Mick Fanning, uncharacteristic slip right there with the backwash. A lot of momentum right in Frederico's corner.
And he is going to put a big number on the board in the early stages. Ronnie Blakey joined by former Championship Tour surfer Ross Williams. And Ross, this event has already been littered with massive upsets. Early on in the second round, it was Owen Wright and Julian Wilson falling at the hands of a couple of wild cards. And then we've seen Kelly Slater tumble out of the draw in round 3 to Brett Simpson. And Mick Fanning now under pressure because Frederico Morais is about to open up with an excellent score.
And if you remember, just a couple of years ago, Frederico Morais took down Kelly Slater with a big old air reverse. So, you know, he might be a little bit under the radar for you folks at home, but this guy is a little bit of a giant slayer. He doesn't blink in the eye of a big situation.
Well, it's interesting how the tables can turn in round 3. Mick Fanning is under immense pressure as Frederico Morais puts a 9.3 on the board. And Fanning now, without priority, has a look at an insider, but opts not to go.
Saw Mick flick the water right there with his hand. He is agitated. Not the start he was looking for. He's used to doing that to his competitors. And you know what? I liked it, Ronnie. That first carve had so much power. A lot of rail in the water. That was a beautiful turn.
Big score. 2 turns.
It's a big score, but, you know, I mean, again, I said it right during the live or during that first replay. I thought it was one of the best turns we've seen in this event. That is a ton of spray. So, you know, and that spray is not one of those fire hose sprays where you see someone click kind of that button on the top of the wave. That was all power. Great rail surfing and a very tidy finish, too. Right here. Watch him lean on those heels. And he knifes around, so he didn't finish it. I love how he gave it that extra little torque at the end there, just barely disengaging the fins for a split second. He actually fit in a second turn there, so that just shows you how crisp it was, and then he had that nice closeout re-entry.
Well, Fanning now, having a look at this one, he kicks out. Just looking a little bit shaky at this point in time, but there's plenty of minutes left on the clock. Just under 24. Let's get Pete Mel's perspective on that opening exchange.
Well, I'll tell you, you know, right before he stood up, I mean, actually, let's back up a little bit. Mick Fanning actually was holding position deep, and somehow Frederico didn't even move, but ended up, I think he paddled for a wave. He came over and he paddled for a wave and ended up deeper for that next section and that next wave, and it was in perfect position. And before he even took off, the crowd was erupting. So I don't know how he had to keep his nerve, but he laid into that turn, surfed it super well, and the crowd went berserk. And you can see right then and there, Mick actually was slapping the water before he even ridden a wave. So the crowd playing a factor here for sure. And Frederico being just that cool as a cucumber kind of approach. He's not even really paddling around. He's just kind of sitting there. And Mick definitely had that approach of like wanting to hold position and start the heat kind of dominant in the water. And right now it's not paying off because you can see there's definite frustration there.
Well, this is huge.
It is huge.
Just under 23 minutes remaining. And Frederico Morais opens with a 9.13. And Mick Fanning He's obviously in second place and chasing at this stage of the game.
Yeah, this is again, this is what Mick is used to doing to his competitors. So, the momentum is obviously in Frederico's corner. But here's the thing, Mick is a champion. He knows how to fight back. You can see him scrambling around, and he knows where that 9 fell. He saw that first turn from behind. So, this heat's far from over.
Well, let's see if Frederico can put another big backup score on the board. He's used priority for this ride. Just one section to play with. A speed float, hoping to find the open face again. It doesn't happen for him. Frederico, 54th on the QS at this stage. The 23-year-old from Cascais, Portugal. He's a big unit, 6 foot 1 inch tall, 178 pounds. And he has done some damage in this event in the past. 21 and a half minutes to go. Frederico's last ride came through at a 1.67. Mick Fanning now assumes priority. Let's hear from the winner of the last heat, Joel Parkinson.
Joel Parkinson, you got out in the water and you got started fast against your opponent, Matt Wilkinson.
Yeah, it was. I started with that that 8, I think, and then it really felt like the tide started to come in and just try to back it up. It took me most of my heat to do it, and Wilco came back at that point, and but I was on the one behind, so I was pretty lucky. So and you can hear the crowd going mental right now. I think Fred got another good one, which is a bit of a bummer for Mick.
Well, with that said, you're really good friends with Mick. You've been together through titles and all the way along the road. With him, as he's got his back against the wall, he can battle back. There's still plenty of time.
Yeah, Matt, true champion. I saw what he did in France. Needing that huge score against Maxime, and these are the type of heats that I think he thrives on too. He'll stick by his guns. He has a real good formula, and he'll stay by it. And if it comes his way, he'll probably make the most of it.
Well, there you have it. Good heat for you. You must be stoked to be moving on through and trying, build it up for the campaign towards the end of the year.
Cheers, yeah. I've been having a shocker, so I'm starting to just start, making a few heats and get my confidence back. Hopefully, I'll, do some damage for Mick and take some guys out.
Well, there you go. Moving on through. Congratulations, Joel. See you in the next round.
Thanks, Strider. 20 minutes remaining, though, in heat number 6 of round 3. The winner of this one will be meeting Joel Parkinson and Nat Young in heat 2 of round 4. Frederico continues to build momentum. He's found a solid backup score, 6.83 for this one.
And so, if this guy's flying under your radar, make no mistakes about it. He has been competing on a QS tour. Look at that second turn. Throwing up a ton of spray, so showing some variety there. We saw that big old forehand carve. Now he's on his backhand, putting together some backhand whips. Nice vertical approach there. 6.83, Ronnie. So wow, already Mick Fanning needs a 15.97. But again, Frederico, he's been competing all year long on a QS. Compiling some okay results. Now, he did get a 9th in the last QS 10,000. So he might not be a family household name, but this guy's been on tour competing.
Well, it just seems at the moment that anytime Mick makes a move in the lineup, a wave breaks where he just was. So he's just trying to find his place out there. Frederico certainly has the early rhythm as he looks to swing on another insider here. Looking to improve on a 6.83. Drifts that tail. Surfing without pressure now as he sets the fins free on the second manoeuvre. And looking for a big finish. Right on the shore break section in front of this big Portuguese crowd. He bashes the foam. A well-constructed ride, 18.5 minutes to go. I still like that big second turn on the left-hander.
Yeah.
I think that might still be second best score.
I'm enjoying the way he looks on that surfboard. Really flowing through those turns for a bigger guy. He looks really agile. I want to say it looks like he's on a JS. So surfboard is looking sparky and fast for Frederico, and I love that snap, that second snap here on this little right-hander. Really nice, but I'm with you. I'm not sure it's going to better the 6.83.
Just under 18 minutes to go. Do you think Adriano de Souza's watching this heat unfold, Ross?
He's got to be psyched for sure. Julian, the guys that lost out. Watch his second carve. That second half, again, he's not just grunting into these really kind of beefy turns. He's snapping out of them. So he's combining that power with agility. I'm really enjoying it. And then finishing these waves off. 0 mistakes. I mean, at this point, he could almost come in and chill out. But Mick's too dangerous. He knows that. He'll try and get rid of that 6.8.
Fanning forced to wait now for a pretty decent ride because Frederico connected with a gem at the start of the heat. 9.13 on his very first wave, just over 17 minutes to go. Well, Frederico Morais, he has some help in his corner. A former championship tour surfer, Richard Dogmarsh from Australia, has been working with Frederico for some time. And here he goes again. The Portuguese surfer just on a tear out here at the moment. It's like he's the only surfer in the lineup and under priority, bashing a few lips. Let's hear from the coach that's helping Frederico along the way, Richard Dogmarsh. He's with Chelsea Kennel.
Hey, Ronnie. Yeah, so I caught up with Richard Dogmarsh just to talk to him a little bit about what he told Frederico. I noticed Frederico was in the locker room warming up, and he looked really, really focused. And then as he was running out into the water, I heard Dog say, "Be bold." So I went over and I asked him, I said, "What did you guys talk about before he went out there?" Because he obviously came out swinging, and he said he was really feeling confident about his carve. And Dog told him, you know, "I don't want to see you surf safe. I'd rather see you fall." So that was the most important thing for him. And this crowd is eating up every single second of this. As you can see, Mick is tearing things up right now, and you'll watch. They'll go crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Chelsea, I know you were watching that unfold, and the crowd did go mad. Mick, under pressure, Ross, responded with a lot of speed and unleashed plenty of power there.
Yeah, great insight there from Chelsea, getting some inside scoops on Richard Dogmarsh. That guy's been around for a while. He knows how to win a heat. But it's going to be gut check time for Frederico because Mick just put together a perfect ride. It's going to be a really big number. It might even match that 9.13 from Frederico. So now it's game on.
Well, just the combination of maneuvers and the number of turns that Mick fit in, I'm thinking it's got to be somewhere between... well, I think it's going to be higher than Frederico's wave. Have a look. Maybe just that first turn that Frederico had. That might be his strength. But Mick's second turn was strong, Ross.
I love the zip that Mick Fanning gets out of those bottom turns, too. You know, he's one of the best on tour at just really carrying speed and actually gaining speed out of his turns. And this wave was a pure testament of just how fast Mick Fanning is. Lightning speed floater there. Crisp off the lip, and then he cracks into this hack right here. You know, really quick. And, you know, this wave provided a lot of sections, and I like how he connected each dot perfectly with a lot of power and speed.
I think this is going to be an interesting score because even on that angle, the wave looked a lot flatter than Frederico's. So even though Frederico did less damage with less turns, I mean, he definitely had two really big moves on a bigger wave.
Yeah.
So it's going to be really close.
Speed, fins free flare, you know, Mick has the edge there, but that first carve from Frederico was definitely the most powerful turn we've seen so far in this heat. So, you know, it could be one of those things where they're splitting hairs here. You know, I wouldn't be surprised to see it fall right in the same zone as a 9.13, but it could go higher. I'd be really surprised to see it go under.
14 minutes remaining. Frederico Morais, a great start to the heat, a 9.13, has had a number of solid rides to back it up, but still hanging on to a 6.83 as the best of them. As the numbers start to fall, 13 minutes and 45 seconds remaining.
Look at Mick Fanning, his eyes right now. He is just breathing fire. He knows he's back in this heat.
Waiting on the scores to come through for Fanning. And this heat is getting interesting. Definitely one of the most exciting heats that we've seen, and the number drops for Fanning. It does come under 8.4 for Mick Fanning. An 8.4, so he does get himself back in the heat. He's broken that combination. He's now after a 7.57. So the judges really loving that commitment to the first turn from Frederico, the size of his wave and the solid finish.
That was classic. You saw Mick Fanning taking a look, a death look back up to the judges saying, "What's going on? What do you want from me?" So he is not happy with that 8.4.
Well, just under 13 minutes to go. And Adriano de Souza would have to be watching this heat unfold. Let's get some insights from Chelsea.
Hey, Ronnie, I'm losing you a little bit here, but I did run down to the water's edge to follow Adriano. Up until that last final seconds before he ran out to the water's edge, he was watching the entire heat. He took some time to get ready, but he was really quick. It was probably the quickest I've seen him change. He had eyes on the water the entire time as he was warming up, and then as you can see, he's already ready. So he is not wasting any time.
Good on you, Chelsea, making the dash down the beach through that crowd. And De Souza, he would have been feeling pretty good about what he was seeing in the lineup at that last wave of mix. Just a reminder that you can't count out the surfer in the yellow jersey. He's pulled himself out of a couple of tough heats after slow starts throughout the year. And he's had to do the same here in round 3. He has a look at a wave there. He's without priority at the moment. So, Ross, you said you'd be surprised if that score came under. It did fall short, 8.4 compared to Frederico's 9.13. What do you think the judges saw?
Well, I'm going to be honest. I'm actually enjoying that little nod, tip of the cap to Frederico, just because I really feel strongly that that first turn was one of the best turns we've seen in this event. I just love the old school raw power. That was a beautiful hack. But the reason why I was going to be surprised if it fell under, because Mick Fanning had multiple maneuvers. He had four big turns, not as much power, but that wave was running horizontal with the beach pretty quick. So he kind of had to keep his speed up. This first turn, though, is just a thing of beauty. That was the craziest hack we've seen in this event. Nice linkage right there, and then he finishes it off with a tidy little snap there with some speed and flow. So, when I watch it back, I like that the judges gave him the nod just from that first turn alone. It was comparable to a big air. That first big old hack was huge. Now, Mick Fanning obviously has a lot more flow and speed. But because that wave was kind of running down the line, he didn't really lean into it as hard.
Well, back to live action, and Frederico Morais opens up with another big, strong carve. Really confident on the rail, and he looks for a solid finish. Again, just drifts that tail, looking to replace a 6.83 to push the requirement higher for Fanning, who's currently in second, and prior to that ride was in pursuit of a 7.57.
7.57 for Mick Fanning. So, Mick can get that in his sleep, but Frederico's staying busy. We just caught the first turn. I'd love to see that wave over again. See, uses priority, Mick making sure he gets it. Another beautiful hack. I mean, Frederico, hats off. Man, this is amazing surfing for him. I'm really impressed. This wave goes a little flat through the middle, and then just a decent little tail slide there to finish. So again, he's really struggling to try and get rid of that 6.8. I feel like that, again, that's going to be right there in the same neighborhood.
I like it when a surfer's able to identify where their edge might be over someone. And I think power is Frederico's real, loaded gun against Fanning, because Mick's probably maybe not as proficient in the air as Frederico. Frederico's laid down some pretty big air reverses in this event, even in the past. But when it comes to linking a number of major maneuvers together, Fanning's pretty hard to beat.
Yeah.
But Frederico, just with that 2 big power turns, fetching a huge number.
And that's what makes Mick Fanning so tough to beat at places like J-Bay, because it's all about linking together 7 turns and really riding that wave for everything it's worth. But out here in this beach break, it's about a big explosive move, either a big air or a big old hack. And that's what Frederico laid down, and it's given him the edge so far in this heat.
Well, plenty of waves rolling through for these competitors, and Fanning swings on this one out onto the open face. That trademark arcing carve to start, jams it in the pocket, setting the fins free for a moment, takes the high road and somehow links to this end section and bashes it, bringing it through to the inside. Still not finished, throws his board up one more time. Right on the sand, and the crowd is loving it. Decent numbers rolling through for Morais on his last wave. He's looking to replace a 6.83. A great heat unfolding here.
This is epic. This is just a fist fight right here. And again, Frederico, a little unlucky that wave flattened out through the middle, because his first turn on his last wave that we're waiting for was beautiful. It was a really nice carve. I'm so impressed with his rail game, and he just barely improved. But we're waiting for Mick Fanning's last wave. That was, again, mistake-free surfing from Mick.
A 6.9 for the Portuguese surfer, and Fanning, well, he needs a 7.64 from this ride to get into the lead.
I mean, Mick Fanning is just a joke. That rail surfing right there is second to none. Beautiful wrap, trademark Mick turn. Again, that wave went flat through the middle, which is unfortunate. But again, he is so strong through his lower body. He maintained speed through that fat section and got one nice finishing turn. So I guess I would be surprised if he got a 7.64, but he's definitely switched on. If he gets himself one of those gems, he's going to get a big score.
A 6-point ride. And Fanning showing some frustration there with just over 7 minutes to go. Wave selection. Crucial. And at the moment, Frederico's just finding a bit of a steeper wall, a steeper canvas to work with, and he's laid down some big turns. Fanning, as you said, he switched on, but a couple of his waves have flattened out. Here he goes again without priority. Swinging into a big fin throw to start. Explosive first turn. Grinds through a carve. This wave fattening up a bit. And he'll need a big finish, but he's not going to get the connection.
This has been a really, really fun heat. I'm on the edge of my seat, and Ronnie, look, there's only 6 minutes left. And that's always a testament to a fun heat to watch when you look at the clock and all of a sudden it's just melted away. If for somehow Mick Fanning can claw his way back and win this heat, this is where his world title, if he does in fact win this year, is going to feel so special. This is such a big heat check right here for Mick. I mean, he is really taking it to him. Frederico, you know, testing Mick Fanning.
Just over 6 minutes to go. Fanning had last-minute heroics in France to save himself in the early rounds against one of the wild cards, Maxime Husseneau. In the last 15 seconds, got himself an excellent score to keep alive. He might need that again in this heat. He's doing some great surfing. But again, Frederico has just connected with steeper waves. And I think that's really the difference. He has performed so well, the wild card, but Mick just needs to get himself on a steeper wall.
Well, I'm definitely impressed with Frederico. That 9.1, he could have easily surfed that wave into a 7, but he just laid down the biggest carve we've seen in this event. So, you know, he's earned that 9. That's impressive.
Well, Portugal can be proud. Frederico putting on a great show against the world #1 at the moment. But they've also got Vasco Ribeiro coming up in the next heat against Adriano de Souza, who is watching this heat so closely, Chelsea.
He definitely is. You know, I've been down here watching him, obviously trying to give him some space as he tries to get some head space. But it's been interesting to watch him because he goes between warming up at the water's edge and then just getting completely distracted and turning all of his attention over whenever anyone takes off on a wave. He's done, you know, he's been down here by the water's edge, he's prayed, and he kind of tries to warm up again, but his eyes are on this heat. You know, we kind of wondered how he would be doing during this heat, whether he'd be watching it as intently as he has been, and he has been. I mean, he's watching it as intently as we are.
Well, you know what? Gabriel Medina is going to be watching these two heats very closely as well because he's still alive in the third round, surfing in Heat 12 against Caio Belli. And his title hopes will get a massive injection of confidence if Fanning trips up here and Adriano tumbles out as well. So this is huge. 4 minutes and 10 seconds remaining, and Mick Fanning is chasing a 7.64. It's a big score, Ross.
There's a lot of interested spectators. I mean, imagine Owen Wright and Julian Wilson right now. If somehow Mick Fanning and Adriano de Souza go down in this round, wow, we're going to go to pipe with another show.
And the other person that we got to mention is Felipe Toledo. He's already into the 4th round. I'm pretty sure if Mick got himself into the quarters of this event, Felipe's title chances would have just about been shot. So this is huge for him too. Well, here we go. Mick without priority, having a look at this one. It's an insider. He's going to have to do some big turns. He kicks out quickly. 3.5 minutes to go. Was maybe just trying to sell Frederico and get the lineup coming into the final stages. He has a look at this one.
One of the tricky things about this high tide, we're coming up on a peak right now, just in about 40 minutes. These waves are getting shorter. They're getting kind of pushed towards the edge of the shoreline. So you got to get your work done really quick.
Well, Mick needs a wave that you'd think is going to serve up 3 pretty good move sections, and then he needs to dig in hard because Frederico, with really just two major sections, fetched a 9.13 at the beginning of the heat. He had a transition turn in between those manoeuvres, but the majority of the points came from the first and last turn.
I mean, Mick is such a powerful surfer, but he loves to keep his flow down the line. I would love for him to see a little left-hander come at him at the end of one of his waves where he does that trademark layback hack. That could be, you know, the edge that he needs to grab that 8-pointer.
Well, he snuck in on the inside because he didn't have priority, looking to swoop on an insider. And as a result, put himself somewhat out of position for the set waves, but there really wasn't too much scoring opportunity on that last ride. Frederico has done a great job of establishing a lead, and he now holds priority. And if we're to be completely honest, it doesn't look like there's too much swell action heading our way. So Fanny's going to need something special to just pop up.
This is huge. You know, Frederico now, he has the opportunity to really hover and just stay glued to Mick Fanning in this last minute and a half. Block him from any chances left. Any waves, he can take it.
Well, it must just seem like the seconds are just falling away way quicker than normal for Fanning at the moment. And I guess on the other hand, for Frederico, it seems like those seconds are an eternity.
This has been such an amazing heat because Mick Fanning's ripping. I love the way he's surfing right now. He's made no mistakes. You know, Frederico just had that slide edge with that big old hack. You know, both these guys are surfing a 10 out of 10 in this heat.
So starting to move a little closer to the inside now. I think Mick has worked out that there's not too many swell lines heading our way. And there's only 1 minute remaining. And this Portuguese crowd is starting to get excited. There's some hands going together. They're starting to clap. Adriano de Souza's been pretty good at keeping on track with the title front runners, especially in that last event. Got the jump on Mick, got a semi-final where Mick fell short in the quarters. There's 30 seconds to go, and Frederico has priority. So he can block Mick, but Mick needs a big score, and it doesn't look like he's going to get an opportunity, Ross.
I'm so interested to see how Adriano digests his heat. I wouldn't even be surprised if this rattles him, just because of all the energy in the air, all the momentum with the Portuguese surfers.
Well, Mick, he paddles straight over to Frederico. Always the true sportsman, and shakes hands with the wild card, and you should hear this crowd. It is deafening. The roar as he makes his way in. A 9.13 on his last wave. He's dropping 3 sixes. And he's hanging on to a 6.9 as his second best score. And he's on his way to the 4th round. He'll surf against Nat Young and Joel Parkinson, and he is buzzing. And again, he plays potential spoiler in the world title race. Beat Kelly Slater here in 2013 in the 2nd round. And now he has defeated Mick Fanning, the current Jeep ratings leader, in Heat 6 of round 3.
That was one of the more impressive wild card upset beats I've seen, you know, in competition. He didn't just get lucky with great waves. He really he took it to the champ with a big old hack. That was impressive.
A huge result for Frederico, a massive result for Portugal, because for the first time they have a local surfer into the 4th round of a CT event, and they've still got another one to come. Richard Dogmarsh. He gives his upstart a big slap on the back. I thought it was great advice too, just last second advice, be bold. You know, it's not the common instruction, but it worked. He was really hard on the rails of his board on that first wave.
That's the impressive part is, you know, nowadays everyone thinks be bold, go to the air, do a big old punt, but he did it old school style, solid hacking.
Well, he did the same thing in the first round to get the jump on Kolohe and Dino and Adriano de Souza.
Hey, Ronnie,
and we're going to hear from
here.
him right now. Chelsea, take it away.
What an impressive victory that was. We talked to your coach. He said to be bold before you went out into the water, and that's exactly what you did. How good does this feel?
It's amazing. It's amazing to win with good scores again and against Mick Fanning, you know. It's such a good victory and such a good feeling. Yeah, super stoked.
Doug was saying that you felt really strong before you went out into the water. What was it that made you feel so strong? Obviously, going up against Mick Fanning is no easy task.
No, it's not easy at all, and I guess, I mean, every surfer here, it's a really hard task, and I was feeling really good. I'm surfing good, my boards are good, you know. I kind of know this place, so, and I had nothing to lose. I just wanted to show some surfing and get through some more hits, and that's what I did, and it worked out.
How about the support from that local crowd down there? I mean, I almost got taken out by all your fans.
I know, it's crazy. Portuguese people are such passionate people, and I'm glad they support us like this, and so happy.
Congratulations. I'm going to let you celebrate. We're going to go to a break, but don't miss coming back because Adriana de Souza is going to be in the water. We'll see you then.
I have a dream, it is to win this world title. If not, it's not a good year.
Once you are a wild card, you always know you're gonna surf against the top seeds. So you just gotta be ready for everything. To surf on my first city, I'm just really stoked.
I have so much respect for Vasco. He's a world junior champ and he beat the number 3 in the world. So he can do damage out there.
Well, the upsets continue to come here. And Mick Fanning just chatting with Kelly Slater there. Mick out of the event.
I thought both of those scores could have been a little better, but I thought his 9-1 compared to your 8-4 was like, I was looking, after they gave him 9-1, they're going to give him a 9-5. Yeah. For sure, I thought. It was probably because it got so small at the end, maybe they just didn't like that it was just like a little whip tail. Yeah. Or something, but you already had done the damage. You got the speed float to the straight up vert and then the next snap, and then you floated all 4 different things, you know? I don't know. I don't want to add to your frustration right now, but I was sitting over there pretty pissed off, because they didn't really even have it close in the end. You lost by over a point. Yeah. Which I was like, I kind of thought you won the heat, but I think for world title heats, when they're that close, they got to err on the right side of it.
Wow. Well, Kelly Slater having his say, and Mick Fanning. Well, there's nothing you can do about it now. He's just got to watch on and see how Adriano de Souza performs, because Adriano has a great shot at getting into the lead and back into that yellow jersey going into the final event. He's up against Vasco Ribeiro, another one of our damaging wildcards here at the Moche Rip Curl Pro, and he's already had a big win. He won his first round battle. Vasco getting a win over Owen Wright and Michelle Perez in the first round. But it was Adriano de Souza getting a quick start here, Ross Williams.
So this is a good test for Adriano. Can he, try and get that momentum back in his side that, with Frederico getting that win? Be good to see if he is how his nerves are. Nice start for Adriano de Souza, but, it's not going to be a massive score, but I like the flow. His boards always look so good under his feet. It's so rare that you see Adriano de Souza go slow on a wave. He's always just getting pulled along. So no big scores, but again, I like what I'm seeing. And that high tide still filling in, so these waves kind of getting cut short.
Well, Mick Fanning took a while to get going. He actually fell on his first ride. Adriano de Souza, he's taken a couple of medium-sized rides, but hasn't looked shaky at all so far as he takes to the air on ride number 3. Just a small reverse to get started. But still working this one over. Flexing that repertoire. Plenty of flow. And he's going to kick out ride number 3. Probably going to be a similar score to his first 2 waves. He had a 5.5 and then a 5. Vasco Ribeiro, bit of a wobbly start his first wave. He took off awkwardly, but managed a 1.93. But he really needs to put some pressure on de Souza, because once Adriano gets out to a lead, he's hard to stop.
Every heat, there's a psychological battle going on, and Adriano de Souza is the king of getting quick leads and applying pressure. It's it's very plain and simple. It's right in front of us. That's obviously what Adriano is trying to do, staying very busy right away at the top of this heat, trying to throw a couple numbers at the young Portuguese surfer.
Ross, you spent a number of years competing in the elite ranks, and you got the opportunity plenty of times to compete in front of hometown crowds. Just how much confidence did it give you, and how much did it help lift your performance level when you were competing in front of a big hometown crowd?
I think the hometown crowd for me was one thing. I definitely loved it if I heard people cheering for me, but more than anything, I loved feeling comfortable. I loved having that familiar territory where I've been surfing here since I was a little kid, and I know how this wave's going to break. I know where it's going to break. This is my home court. I have the edge. And again, it all goes back to just being confident, and that's the mental warfare that goes on in heats.
21.5 minutes to go. Pete Mel out in the lineup. Pete, do you think Adriano watched the start of that last heat and saw Fanning's slow start and looked to get a couple of quick scores on the board?
Adriano just to study completely and utterly in every aspect of the sport. So one of the things I think that he came, at least I can see from here, is that he wanted to take the crowd out of the factor here, and he's done that just by getting that quick lead. Now it's gone quiet. Vasco's probably feeling the nerves, whereas it was the opposite in the heat before, where Frederico was able to get that crowd fired up and actually use it as a weapon against Mick. And right now what he is doing, it seems to me, is getting that quick start. I mean, he hasn't put any huge scores up, but he's definitely riding a bunch of waves to get that crowd to be quieted down, and he's done that.
Cheers, Pete. 20.5 minutes remaining as Vasco Ribeiro has a look at a decent wave here. He swings. Let's see what he can do. Building speed for this first turn. Just a transition maneuver. Needs to get some high impact turns done on the inside to convert this into a solid score. And he looks to go to the air and drifts that tail, and it is a clean finish, clearing a lot of water and stamping that thing right on the inside. And this crowd is really starting to warm up. You talk about guys feeling comfortable competing at home. Well, Vasco Ribeiro won a World Junior Championship just last season down at Cascais, and he also quarter-finaled in the QS 10,000 there just in this very event. He was beaten by the surfer Kalohe Andino, who went on to win the contest.
So, how's that injection of adrenaline? You saw Vasco kicking and scratching, clawing back out. He's got a lot of juices flowing right now after that wave. He knows he just finished it with a nice little air. So he's back in his seat. Adriano de Souza's got that quick lead, but the numbers aren't big, so he is more than back in it.
Adriano had some solid turns on his first couple of rides, but you definitely got to say that Vasco ramped up the risk factor with his last maneuver here.
Well, let's see the first couple of turns. Just a little cut back. That's not going to get the judges too excited. Another little snap back there for Vasco. A little more rail in the water there on that carve there, but this is where he's generating speed and pops a really cool air, kind of an old school tail waft for Vasco. If I had to take a guess, it's going to be a mid-range score, but again, that's more than going to put him back in the heat.
Well, it might even be the highest scoring wave of this clash so far. Just under 19 minutes remaining. Adriano de Souza is no doubt aware that Fanning is out of the contest, and he now can make some serious ground and maybe even take that yellow jersey back.
You know he's feeling it. There's just no way to avoid it for Adriano de Souza. This is a big heat for him, not only performance-wise, what he's going to do in his heat to take out Vasco, but to maintain those nerves of possibly taking out Mick Fanning for the lead.
5.93 for the Cascais local. On his last ride, he now needs a 5.34 to get into the lead. De Souza has priority. And Adriano saying before we kicked off this heat that if he doesn't get a world title this year, it's a disappointing year. That's pretty amazing when you look at his run and just the incredible results that he's achieved this year. Had a third, second and first through the Australian leg. Dropped off the pace through Brazil and Fiji, but bounced back well at Jeffries for a quarterfinal. Trestles, he was runner-up to Mick Fanning. That's where he lost that yellow jersey. And in France, he placed ahead of Fanning, so narrowed the gap to 450 points with a semi-final placing. But some movement here in the lineup. Just under 17.5 minutes to go. Vasco keeping busy, but throws his board vertical and loses his footing on that first turn.
Yeah, just a crummy wave there. That wave not cooperating, kind of was bending out to sea. So even though it looked like it was a mistake, that wave was no bueno. And, you know, I like that. I like that Adriano de Souza in that interview called himself out. Instead of trying to disguise some nerves that aren't there, some task that's not there, he's saying, you know what, I am going for the world title. I'll be bummed if I don't get it.
And here goes de Souza now. He's got priority, uses it on this wave that's standing up beautifully. First turn, almost lost it, but hung on well. Second manoeuvre, performed with a bit more control, and he brings it through to the inside, climbs the foam. What'd you make of that ride, Ross?
Well, you could see Adriano de Souza not really fist pumping that wave, and I think the main thing is he knows that he arrived to the lip just a hair late and kind of got stuck. Even though they were in a nice critical section, you'd rather be projecting out, maybe even kicking the fins free, throwing some spray. So, you know, it's going to be another mid-ranger in my eyes.
Just over 16 minutes to go. He's been victorious here in the past, Adriano de Souza, winning the contest in 2011 ahead of Kelly Slater. There is 16 minutes to go. We're waiting on that last score to drop for the Brazilian. And while we do, let's hear from Mick Fanning with Strider Wozalewski.
Yeah, thanks, boys. Mick Fanning here in the locker room, actually, back behind the scenes. Obviously not the outcome you wanted for this event.
No, definitely. Is that pretty cliche? No, you know, I sort of got myself on the back foot. Like, I was, you know, fighting for the inside, and then I thought the set was done, and then I thought, oh, I'll paddle down to where I think the spot was, and then I turned around, and he was just on a dreamboat, and just ended up getting a 9, and I was and then he backed it up with a couple of 6s straight after, and I was like, needed, you know, close to 16 points before I even stood up, and so that was hard to fight back from, and then yeah, you know, I just tried to do as best I could, and unfortunately, it wasn't enough.
You know, watching that the exchanges go down, I personally thought that the scores were a little off in there. Personally, as it came through, in a heat, does that get frustrating for you? Or you just have to look for that backup and do your best?
Yeah, well, look, I'm out the back. I don't know what he scored, and you know, I just sort of know how I surf my waves, and you know, I guess the 1-6 that I had just didn't have a third turn. You know, I started off good and that, but yeah, and then, you know, I threw everything into it. That's, you know, I can't be disappointed about that. I just feel like I just made that one mistake at the start, and that determined the heat.
So you must be excited, though. Moving on, Pipeline, you've done well there. You love the wave. It's going to be a big event. It's all going to come down to Pipeline. Yeah,
for sure. You know, I guess you just got to see what happens here today. You know, with Adriano and then Gabe and Philippe as well. But you know, it's been a long year, so it's going to be good just to go home and just you know, put the feet up for a little bit and just have a bit of a rest before heading into Pipe. But you know, Hawaii's an amazing place, and there's so many great people there, and so yeah, you know, yeah, if you're going to be fighting for a world title, you might as well do it at Pipeline, right? And yeah, let's go to the Coliseum and let's see what we can fight for.
Well, there you go. The Gladiators are getting ready. Pipeline's coming. Mick Fanning's out.
Thank you, Strider. And it is going to be one hell of a show because there's going to be a few people gunning for this world title. And it's going to be huge. This is a massive heat for Adriano de Souza. During that interview, we saw Vasco Ribeiro connect with a beautiful-looking wave, but he took a fall. It was a lost opportunity. Meanwhile, de Souza, he improved his lead. He had a 6.03 on that last wave. And just over 13 minutes to go. It was a good-looking wave, but I didn't know if it was going to go higher than Bashko's previous ride because it felt like he never really teed off on it properly.
Yeah, he just got there a little late and kind of punched it. Right there, that maneuver was okay, but he caught a little rail. This one, he was late, so he had to kind of punch through the lip. I like that it was a nice wave, and it was critical in terms of, you know, where he placed his board. It was right in the meat of the wave, but again, it wasn't perfectly placed. He didn't get much projection, so, you know, a 6. It was just okay. That's just about right.
Definitely one of the taller walls that the competitors have found out there to tuck into for the first section. I think the judges have definitely been paying more attention to the size and the waves.
I will say this is kind of big for Vasco in terms of nerves and how he's feeling. He must be pretty bummed about that effort in that last wave. There was a potential excellent score there, and he slipped, so he's going to have to regroup.
Let's see what he can do with this one. Without priority, he finds a nice-looking left-hander, drives up into the first section, sets that tail free for a moment. Beautiful floating re-entry onto the inside and bashes it once again. And he likes the feel of it. He makes sure he rides out of that turn. 12 minutes remaining. And the 20-year-old with a birthday around the corner next month could be looking at the heat lead after that wave. Bashed it to pieces.
This is fun. This is a really good time. And these wild cards, they are putting up a fight today. You know, amazing right there. A great score is going to drop for Vasco. Easily the biggest number so far in this heat. And I like how he built momentum. You can almost feel like he was a little nervous on those first 2 turns. But then he had an amazing bonus end section, really steep, and he punched the teeth right in.
Waiting on the numbers to come through, loving how these heats are playing out for the world title contenders. They're being pushed by some inspired wild cards.
Well, sometimes when you get a wave this good, you can get a little tingly in the toes. And just a little late on that first turn, nice flow through the second turn, and this section was money. And he finished it off nicely. Went to throw the tail a little bit, got hung up a little bit, but he floated out of it nicely. So throughout the whole wave, it wasn't like a 10 out of 10 in terms of performing on the wave, but he got the job done.
And he got himself a solid score, an 8.43. But here comes Adriano. He throws all he's got at the end section. Can't ride out of that move. But an 8.43 puts Vasco Ribeiro in the driver's seat in Heat 7 of round 3. And de Souza's after an 8.34 now.
And that wave was one of the better waves we've seen in the last hour or so from Vasco. That thing was steep and glassy and clean. That left-hander was so nice. And Vasco teed off 3 major maneuvers, so 8.43. It's got him into a big lead.
Well, did you see that? Vasco Ribeiro, he was waiting to hear the score. He knows he's got that priority. As soon as he heard the number, he just started paddling, gunning for de Souza. He wants to control the final 10 minutes of this heat.
Another shot of adrenaline. And I like that he's starting to pace himself now. He realizes, wow, I got 10 minutes left. I got to pump the brakes a little bit here and make sure I finish this heat. Get rid of that 5.9.
Well, both these competitors in the lineup, they came onto the scene with big junior world titles. 2014, Vasco Ribeiro won it. Way back in 2003, at just 16 years of age, Adriano de Souza, well, he claimed the WSL World Junior title down at Narrabeen. He went on to win the qualifying series, de Souza. And since 2006, he's been causing headaches for the title front runners and has had a number of top 5 finishes. And here he goes again, without priority, going all out there.
A little surprised that Vasco let that wave go. It was really nice from his position where he was, but he didn't like something about it. Adriano was too far in his shoulder. That's why he went for that big move.
Well, Vasco might be on the hunt for another left-hander because Even though he landed that nice little air on the forehand, his last two right-handers he's fallen on.
The waves are absolutely on fire right now. I love when it's higher tide out here. It just opens up more maneuvers for the guys. They're not as cramped.
Well, Vashko having a look at this one. Looking to drop a 5.93. Get some speed to start with. And now takes to the air. Throws an air reverse. Can't ride out of that move.
So he's got to make sure he keeps his head screwed on straight, because the wave he let go was better. And then that wave was more or less a closeout. So he was forced to kind of show his hand there with the big old aerial. And you can see right there, he let that wave go from his position. That wave was beautiful, had a nice long line on it. He could have fit in at least 2 major maneuvers.
And the other thing is he had priority. Adriano wasn't really in a position for that wave. So he kind of took himself out of a position of control with just 8 minutes to go for a wave that didn't help improve his lead. Peter Mell's got some more insight on Vashko Ribeiro for us.
Yeah, I was just kind of talking about, or thinking about, and now I'll communicate, but you know, in the qualifying series, they've added the man-on-man format throughout the QS 10,000s and a lot of even the star events, like the smaller events, sorry, not the star events, but the QS 3000s and 6000s. So they're getting a lot of experience on the qualifying series surfing man-on-man heats. And after he got that 8-point ride, you saw him just jet, and he was heading right down to sit with Adriano. And some of the times you got to learn that, you know, you want to play offense, but at the same time, you got to sit next to your competitor and make sure that, hey, if a good quality wave comes your way, and that's what he's learning. And then, Ross, you were touching on the fact that the waves look all glassy and butterball, but yeah, that's exactly what's happening out here. Surfline forecast saying that it was going to back off this wind. It has, and the swell is going to increase. And even with this high tide, we're starting to see a lot more waves. Even down where I am down here, there's a ton of surf. There's a lot of sets. They're bigger, more juice. So exciting stuff. I'm stoked that this is unfolding. Travis is making some good calls here.
Well, just under 7 minutes to go. Vashko Ribeiro still out in front. You talk about the use of priority on the QS level. Certainly helping some of these young guns bring that experience to the CT level. And Vashko, he's a good chance of qualifying this year, and that's one of the interesting stories about him opting to compete here, even though he still needs to make up some ground on the QS. The opportunity to surf in a championship tour event in front of his hometown crowd was just too good, so he opted to skip a QS 6000 over in Brazil.
Yeah, and that's big. And I'm not sure you've already mentioned it, Ronnie, but he's 38th on the QS ratings right now, which is big. That's a great foundation to actually make it to the top 10 at the end of the year and qualify. So that is a big decision to miss that, but wow, he's maximizing it here.
Well, there's just under 6 minutes to go. Vashko Ribeiro out in front. Adriano de Souza, the current world number 2, chasing an 8.34. We'll be back just after the break. There is just under 5 minutes remaining in what could be one of the most important heats of Adriano de Souza's life. Mick Fanning out of the contest in the previous heat at the hands of one of our wildcards, Frederico Morais, and now Vashko Ribeiro, another Portuguese local, has one of our title contenders against the ropes. He's got an 8.43 and a 5.93. And with just under 4.5 minutes to go, Adriano de Souza, he rode a wave during the break, Ross. We're going to get a look at it soon.
Yeah, so you just can't help but to wonder, is there any nerves in this young man's body right now? Is he feeling a title chase? That is not a normal Adriano de Souza turn. Usually he punches those things with so much speed and projection. Just got a little hung up there. So again, priority for Vasco Ribeiro. 3.5 minutes left. It's looking really good for him.
Well, that was a huge let off the hook for Vasco Ribeiro. Adriano de Souza had a beautiful looking wave. He attacked the lip. Everything was looking good. He just got a little caught up. And as a result, couldn't get back out in front of the rod. But Adriano will be tripping that he made that error there. And Vasco, let's see if he's wise with priority. I thought his last priority choice was a little funny because Adriano really was in no position to catch the wave. And as soon as Vasco took off on that ride, he gave Adriano a bit of a chance going into the final stages.
That's a fair point, you know, and you can see Adriano, he is paddling around, scrapping, looking for waves. You know, he'll definitely test Vasco's skills in terms of holding on to that priority.
He's getting full car salesman now on Vasco Ribeiro. He is going to be as slippery as he possibly can and try and sell Vasco on a mediocre wave.
100%. He has got the cheesiest crushed velvet suit on right now. He is trying to sell him anything. And here's a funny thing. Vasco Ribeiro's got another gear or two. He hasn't really clicked in all cylinders on a wave yet, but here we go, Adriano.
On the inside without priority. He has some big moves to go to. He's got plenty of speed. He throws an alley-oop, but just loses his footing. 2 minutes, 20 seconds to go. Vasco Ribeiro looking to keep on pace with his good buddy, Frederico Morais. Both these guys from Cascais.
And there's Vasco. You can see him shadowing Adriano de Souza. Adriano trying to create some space, but Vasco's not having it. He's going to follow him right over there. Adriano just now realizing that, so he straightened out his line.
Just under 2 minutes to go. A bomb set heading Vasco's way. Surely he's going to have to swing on this thing. Or is Adriano out of position?
Very smart from Vasco. He realized that Adriano was too deep. Good choice.
An interesting little fact about Vasco. He's got a baby girl. He's only 20 years of age. Got a 7-month-old baby girl, Diana. I'm sure she's here in the competitors area watching this all unfold and probably has no idea about what is happening. And there she is with mum. And this is a huge day for her dad. Just over a minute remaining, and Vasco has the lead over the current world number 2 and priority.
This is really cool to watch. This is a big day for Portuguese surfing.
Here goes Adriano after a huge number, and he's not going to get it. 1 minute remaining. He looks at his watch. He's not going to give up just yet. He's going to paddle back out there, and Frederico out the back.
Shadowing.
He is kicking his guts out. He's trying to get to Adriano. He wants to shut this heat down.
Where's Julian and Owen right now? He might be like, oh, let's go ahead and take this show to Pipeline for the world title race. This is getting really interesting.
They're just walking around their cots, picking up all their toys. Getting ready to play around over at Pipeline. 30 seconds to go. And Fanning, he must be relieved.
Man, he has got to be so relieved right now.
20 seconds. It would have to be just a complete brain explosion for Vasco Ribeiro to drop this heat now. Such a strong lead. 10 seconds to go. And Vasco's going to give him a look at this one. Without priority, he needed an 8.34. He's not going to get it. And De Souza unable to capitalise on Fanning's early exit, and he'll be bundled out of the third round as well. And Vasco Ribeiro doing Portugal proud. He's powering on through to round number 4. And it's massive for this crowd, Ross. They're absolutely lapping it up.
It is cool. I got chicken skin everywhere. Amazing day for Portugal. And you know what? Vasco, Frederico, they ripped their heats. Really cool to watch.
Well, it's also got to feel like a heat win for Mick Fanning and Gabriel Medina and Felipe Toledo.
It's going to be a lot easier to digest that loss for Mick Fanning now that Adriano went down. And suddenly, Gabriel Medina, he can make things really interesting here in Portugal.
Well, Adriano throws the thumbs up. A solid performance from De Souza, the world number 2, but not enough to overcome Vasco Ribeiro, the 20-year-old. And we'll throw it down to Chelsea. She'll chase down Vasco. Hold up, Vasco.
Come back.
Hold on. Vasco.
He's just lapping up the attention from the crowd. We'll get to him in a moment.
Here he is. So that was pretty incredible. You just took down Adriano De Souza. How on earth did you do that?
I don't know. I just, Adriano is one of my favorite surfers, and I knew it would be really hard, so I just wait for the bombs. It happened. I was really happy with Frederico, and then that gave me a lot of motivation.
Were you able to see any of the heat before you? Obviously, Frederico took down Mick. Did you take any notes that you took into this heat?
Yeah, it's really slow, and there's, it's really hard to find the good ones with a high tide. But, I just believed in myself and believed that the waves will come through, and, that's what happened. I just no words to describe.
What does it mean to get this victory in front of your Portuguese fans and a hometown crowd?
Well, it's amazing to hear everyone screaming and say your name. It's the best feeling in the world.
And do you want to say anything to your Portuguese fans?
Queria agradecer a todos por terem vindo à praia e quem está a apoiar em casa. Estou muito contente e obrigado a todos.
Thank you so much. What an incredible day. You don't want to miss it. We're going to go to break, but we will be back with John Florence and Keanu Singh.
As long as you're awake, you're searching for the best wave. Whether you're waking up or you're almost going to sleep, you're just thinking of how you're going to find that best wave. Just that most oil glass, different color barrel.
Welcome back to the Moche Rip Curl Pro. Portugal, we're into round 3, heat number 8. 2 Hawaiians looking for a spot into round 4. John Florence taking on Keanu Singh. Both these boys from the island of Oahu, coming off some drama from the world title race. As you can see, conditions right here at Super Tubos are absolutely classic. Nice glassy ocean surface with light offshore wind at times. But the big story, Potts, as we come back into round 3 action, is just seeing Mick Fanning and De Souza go down to the local boys. It's a huge day in pro surfing for Portugal. Frederico Morais and Vasco Ribeiro are really taking this world title race into their own hands and changing the whole script heading into Pipeline.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely amazing, really. Mick Fanning surfed extremely well. I thought was a little bit unlucky. De Souza just didn't quite fire. We saw some nerves right there. The door was open a little bit for him, but couldn't quite capitalize.
Here comes John Florence getting started against Keanu. Just a perfect snap in the pocket. Big carve to release on the second move, snaps it off the lip, now starting to build some board speed, looking to finish. The Hawaiian taps it shut on the inside corner. Always exciting to watch. Florence never holding back. Multiple majors with a lot of variety to take the lead off Keanu.
Yeah, what a way to start there for John. You know, it's a wave that he was pretty much owning last year. A couple of 10-point rides. It really does suit his style of surfing, Joe. It's one of those waves that allow that tube ride to big snaps, big aerial maneuvers. And I'll tell you what, the commissioners have nailed this. It's getting better and better as the day goes on. So we're going to keep running.
That's right. Super rippable, big key heats. The last couple of heats have been into the excellent range with numbers. Crucial wave for Vasco came on that left that kept on giving. Let's get back to this one. How'd you like John's first turn?
Yeah, beautiful opening maneuver right there. I think the second turn right here, this is the money shot. Look at that turn right there. Just lets those fins slide. Just such control. He's looking on fire. He's been watching all the upsets so far today and is thinking, not me, that's for sure. And with a wave like that to start off with, John's looking dangerous.
An 8.33 for the Hawaiian to get things underway. He had that injury earlier this year. Had to miss a couple of events back at the Billabong Pro Tahiti. Had some early exits, even though his surfing looked really solid. Florence, always known for putting in huge numbers to start. Not one of those guys that wanted to ever safety surf when he came on tour. Kind of took a page out of the Dane Reynolds book. He was another character that did the same thing. Back when you came on tour, Potts, you read all your old interviews. You came on tour trying to make a big statement. A few years went by, 8 years total before you won your world title. What did you change in your surfing to earn
it? Well, I slowed it down. Gave the judges time to catch up. No, it was just one of those things. There's a certain criteria that you've got to surf towards. A certain game plan that you've got to have to win heats, and I try to pretty much do it my own way, and to an extent it worked, but you got to come to grips with the reality of, okay, this is what I got to do to win heats. And if you're looking for a 5-point ride, don't go to the air. Those are high risk maneuvers. Get the score, move through the next round, live to fight another day. And that's what I did. I just surfed smarter. I fell less, and there you go.
Well, we just had a big story go down for the world title race in 2015. Adriano de Souza just got knocked out of the contest, and Adriano's with Chelsea.
Yeah, Joe, I'm here with Adriano. Adriano, this isn't a typical heat that we've seen from you. From your perspective, what went wrong?
For my opinion, I just leave him by himself for a second because I thought it was a wave coming through by right, and he stay in a 7th spot, and the wave doesn't break. When I going back to grab him, he's starting to paddle to the left, and there's a little corner that just starting to show up, and he went that wave. He got an 8, so it should be that wave was mine. If that wave doesn't show up in that time, and I went paddle right, and then he stays. So anyway, I think he deserved to win, and it's a bummer for me. It was a good opportunity, but at least I have another shot at pipe. So back home right now and recharge and go to the pipe event.
And what preparation will you do before pipe? Because we know that you are obviously hunting that world title, and you've been very honest about how badly you want it.
I always do my own preparation to the event, so I'm gonna stick to the same thing, and I wish to be enough, for to grab this world title. But right now it'd be really tight because Philippe and Gabriel, he's still on the event, so it'll be more people fighting for the world title now, so it'll be more exciting. And I think if you want to win the title, you have to be at pipe. So that's how it will be my big preparation.
And how are you doing emotionally right now? You seem obviously sad and upset, but for the most part, we saw you being such a good sport and giving high fives and whatnot. How are you going to shake this one off, and how are you feeling, just emotionally about this loss?
It's tough because like when you work so hard doing that whole year and then you have an opportunity in your hand and you do everything you can and it was enough. So it's tough to make this through, you know. And but anyway, it's such a bummer, but it's another opportunity as well. Like when I saw Mick lost, so we still next each other. I hope Gabriel or Philippe didn't win the contest, so it would be more easy for us at the last event of the year.
Thank you so much for your time. We look forward to watching this go down at Pipeline.
Thank you, Chelsea. And for the time of Adriano de Souza, current world number 2. He's been clear to let us know his dream has been to be world champion ever since he qualified. A tough blow as he loses to wild card Vasco Ribeiro. Good news for Adriano, though. Fanning went down in the heat before him to another local boy, Frederico Morais. He did bring up that name that has been tossed around behind the scenes ever since we saw number 1 and 2 go down. It's Gabriel Medina, world number 5, picking up his first win up in France of the season, and now putting himself in a position to potentially sneak into this title race from behind. Getting caught up with this heat, Potts. Saw Singh just got away.
Yeah, Keanu, beautiful right there. Tail tapping drop after a vertical snap. So Keanu trying to fight his way back into this heat, 5.83, and then he's backed it up with a 3.43. John with an 8.33 and a 1. So even though John's got that one good wave, still needs to back it up. We've seen the top 4 surfers in the world out of the event here before round 4, which is pretty rare, Joe, to have the top 4 guys falter. Leaves the door wide open for Gabriel Medina and Felipe Toledo to gain the ground that is necessary. Put themselves right in the mix.
This is Keanu Singh now checking out a right. He has a lot of speed, clear for takeoff. He throws down the reverse towards the beach, and he loves it. So felt good for him. Nice, cool rotation. Right there, letting everyone know he's got an air game as well. He did that crazy alley-oop in Brazil, and everyone was like, wow, I didn't know you could do that. Starts doing airs some more and more often. I think even when he was a Grom, he was always able to separate himself from the younger kids because he had power real quickly. Guy that's always worked hard and spent a lot of time in the gym.
Yeah, he's a nugget, you know, and I did some training with him on Fiji, on Tavarua, and the kid is fit and strong.
Here comes Florence on the answer back. There's his wind-up throw tail, loses connection to his board, and he's down. Remember, John had the 8.33 early on a right that just stretched out down the beach. Did completely different maneuvers on every section, and now that's the high mark. On the other hand, Keanu Singh 5.83 to 3.43. There was 16.50 to go. It's kind of interesting when you kind of look at the whole Hawaiian story, the birthplace of surfing. We've had some amazing Hawaiian world champions like Derek Ho, Sonny Garcia, 3-time world champ Andy Irons. The other event when we were at Lowers, we were kind of focusing on the USA contingent, saying where are they going to fill in when Kelly's gone. We'll get back to this story as we check out Keanu's punt.
Yeah, Keanu racing down the line, gets nice air, tail high in the air, and comes out of that. That felt good for Keanu. A 6.93, so he takes the lead. Let's have a look at that there. Beautiful, no grab, beautiful rotation. Nice, juicy, soft landing, and comes out with a big smile on his face. Gotta love that.
Right back into live action. Florence on the back end. A lengthy rock and roll float. He'll sit down on the inside corner and just get out of there. So now getting rid of a 1-range score. Last of us seeing a 6.93. So in that left, John needed a 4.43 to get back in the lead.
You know, even though you've got that one big score, you know, you kind of need to shut the door with a good solid backup, you know, and that's not always easy to do. Let's have a look at John. Nice little connection right there. Races down the line. Beautiful hang time. Critical turn right there. How's the drive he got off that bottom turn once he'd landed? So John needing a 4.43, 4.17, Joe. 15 minutes remaining. Keanu Singh with a slender lead. Needs to really get a wave up in the excellent range.
So very interesting start to this matchup. John with the high single score, but Keanu always says he's got a lot of heart. Heart over height is his hashtag on tour. Says he never put himself to be a freak of nature in the water. You know, the freak word is used a lot in pro surfing. You put that to John Johns, to Bruce Irons, Andy, all the guys that can do anything on demand. Kelly, obviously, in that position. Keanu kind of says that himself, said he has to put in more time. But with that time he puts in, that hard work gives him confidence. We've seen him take down big names this year. John deep on this one. Keanu with priority will fade the takeoff. Now he's got another ramp to work with. He'll do a frontside air, lands on the roof. Almost lost connection of his board, but he's able to pull it off.
Yeah, that was a tactical move right there from Keanu, just realizing that John was in a pretty good sort of position to get a bunch of speed and go flying through the air. So a tactical move there just to keep John at bay. Every little bit like that helps. Now changes the rhythm, puts himself in a different place in the lineup. So good move right there from Keanu.
So now John with priority out the back, down to 14 minutes to go. Florence, the highest rated Hawaiian on the top 34, as he's 15th in the world. After him, it is Keanu, 21st. So John's one feeling the safest as far as requalifying. Think about Seabass, 24th in the world. He already went down. We had Freddie Pataccia announce his retirement after a perfect 10 at lowers in round one. Then you have Dusty Payne, who's been dealing with that back injury. He's sitting 34th in the world. It makes you get a little bit nervous about the Hawaiian contingent coming next year.
Yeah, which kind of surprises me. I mean, there's a lot of, you go to Hawaii, there's just amazing talents everywhere. But it's difficult to get on this world tour. And I think sometimes when you come from somewhere like Hawaii, where you're kind of spoilt growing up, surfing perfect waves, you're in board shorts 99.9% of the time. You know, it's hard to leave paradise and chase the tour to these gritty little beach breaks and, surf these four-man heats. So it's tough.
Gliding in now is Florence. High line carve to start. Now deep off the bottom. Nice vertical whip in the pocket. Front side float on the next effort. Now looking towards the inside corner to ramp up. Tail high towards the beach, and he's down on the finish. Florence only needed a 4.43 to get the lead. So losing the finishing move, but there's more waves on the way. Clean, rippable conditions out front for heat number 8. All Hawaiian battle. Ah Sing looking to answer back. Plenty open face. Layback hack off the top to start. Nice and vertical off the lip. Right into a bottom turn. Late hits the finish, but pulls it off.
Yeah, just didn't quite connect that last turn. You know, when you're surfing against someone like John Florence, you've got to make sure you nail everything. Keanu, though, I tell you what, it's not through lack of trying, that's for sure. This kid puts 110% into every single thing he does. We always talk about how fit and strong he is and how much time he puts in outside of the tour. And there's a beautiful shot of where we're at right now. Amazing.
That's right. This is a place called Peniche, the wave called Supertubo, so you can see the old town in the distance. That's where that old prison is now. It's a fort that you can visit. It's kind of like an old school museum. See the fishermen out in the morning. So fishing for squid these days. You can see them out there. That's been the popular order. The restaurants locally, famously known for their sardines. There's a restaurant called Sardinia, which is epic. You can sit in a little alleyway, just kind of watch the world go by. Back to this one, Potts.
Yeah, John on a nice little wave here, looking to improve his situation, still waiting for the score to drop in. Little float maneuver right there. John realizing I've got to do something special to finish this off. Goes for that reverse there. Gets so much spring in his step. And then right behind him, Keanu trying to improve on his situation. Nice opening, gouging maneuver off the bottom. Jams it through the lip again and then just didn't quite connect that last one. But 3 turns nonetheless. Keanu trying to improve on a 5.83. Let's see if he can do that.
John with priority takes this wave, has a ton of speed. The ramp closes out in front of him. He wanted that one so bad. Still waiting for the numbers to drift in from the previous exchange. John needed that little 4-ranger to take the lead. He'll get it, 4.83. Last coming in for Ah Sing. Now needing a 6.24. Comes up short of 5.33 on his last wave. So John gets the lead back. 10-20. Keanu out the back with priority. Looking at the numbers, Potts, this is a really close matchup.
Yeah, very close. I mean, trading low scores is always going to be a tough heat. You know, it's going to be that seesaw battle. John with just that little bit of an advantage due to that 8.33. So Keanu really needs a wave up in that excellent range just to rival that big score. Needs to put that 6.93, that's his top wave. That needs to be the backup.
John's going to take a little inside left on his way back out. Snaps it off the lip. 2 beautiful backside turns. Small little wave on the inside. So just staying active underneath the priority of Keanu. Already had the lead, but he's trying to improve on a 4.83 there. So on his way back out, we'll see if that's going to make a major difference. Florence always relying on his instincts in big heats. Be surprised he took off on that little wave.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. Obviously knowing that he's only got a small wave, a small score to improve on, I should say. 4.83 is his second highest total, so figured a couple of solid backside maneuvers might do it. It didn't, so back to the drawing board for John. He didn't have priority, so, roll the dice, and as you said, go with your instincts. Go with the gut feeling. You heard Kelly talk about that gut feeling, and his gut feeling said, don't go to Portugal, get the body right. Sometimes you got to listen to that, and everything happens for a reason. So even catching that little left might put John in a different part of the bank, and who knows what can happen.
Down to 850, you can see Keanu out the back, repositioning down the beach. John was kind of sneaking down there on his own after that inside left. Keanu onto him is starting to move down to a new little sandbank. Saying only needs a 6.24, and he's still holding priority. As now he's watching this little wave run through. Scores in for John's last 3.93. Holding on to that lead, low score of a 4.83. Pots with Keanu holding priority. Why would he want to shift down to where John's sitting?
Interesting question, Joe. I think everyone's got their game plan, and I think Keanu wants to be around what's going on with John, you never know. Even though Keanu's looking for the score, he has priority. He maybe wants to try and eliminate that ability for John to get another good score.
Always fun to look at surfboards. Pete Mel is on hand. Pete, in your opinion, how does John's surfboard look under his feet?
Looks amazing, but he's telling me stories over here, and this is John Pizell telling me stories, and he's talking about some of the kids down here wanting autographs, but I'll tell you, it looks great under his feet, to answer your question. But I want to talk relationships in regards to what you talk about with John in regards to surfboard. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily know him to be the one to dissect measurements. I've talked to him in the past about that. He's just one, how do you guys talk about and communicate and then develop that into the surfboard he's riding?
It's pretty simple. If he's liking a board, that's super easy. You're like, great, we'll just stick to that. And then if there's things that are not working right, or I'll be watching him surf, and then he doesn't have the numbers in his head. He doesn't know I need to make this an 1/8 of an inch wider or change this or that. But he's really good at hey, this is how it feels, and when I do this is what happens. And so that is more valuable to me than numbers. I can work on the number part of it, but the feel part of it is just you can't get any better than that, really. Basically, it's when he's telling you hey, or we'll watch footage even, he's see through this turn how it kind of looks a little knifey right there or whatever it's doing. And so we just kind of break it down that way, and then we kind of develop something different and change stuff as it goes along.
How about in regards to competition, as we watch Blue real quick up here riding? But I mean, when in regards to competition, you're here and you're watching, how does that translate into board design?
I think I get something out of that, but I think I just get more out of overall just watching him surfing. There's not it depends on how he wants to approach contests and what he's doing. But basically, I'm just trying to get him boards that he doesn't have to think about, that they just feel good, and he's on them, and just I think those are the best boards. I'm sure you'd agree. The boards that you don't even realize you have a board there. That's what we're trying to do all the time.
Well, thanks for spending the time to talk to us, John.
Thank you, Peter. John Pizell, talented shaper, made a big name for himself, especially in the last couple of years with Florence, committing to riding his surfboards. They've had a great working and friendship relationship for a long time. Pizell based on the North Shore of Oahu and does all the hard work behind the scenes. He actually has a nice little base camp here, shaping room right here in Portugal. So for this event, you always run into Pizell, and he ends up having a lot of work to do behind the scenes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everyone wants to surf like John, don't they? So I think we might have to go and get ourselves a Pizell.
Might as well visit the office.
I like that, though. They've got this unique relationship. Here he goes.
This wave had a little backwash to start. Now John glides in, gets to the first turn, looked a little messy, and he's out. Singh had a wave during the interview with Pizell, went all the way down the beach. Keanu also uses a Hawaiian shaper and Takora for local motion surfboards. Kind of like John, he's been committed to those boards ever since he was a little kid. As we pass the 5-minute warning here in round 3, heat number 8. Keanu Asing still chasing John to take the lead. He might opt for a little backhand attack right here. Keanu sets up a snap, perfect timing. Second snap off the roof, nice and solid, looking for a little more. Chips it in the pocket, winds up for one more blow. Asing's been happy when he's kicking out of a wave that felt really good for him. Had the air earlier. His high score 6.93. A 6.24 gives him the lead pots. So we'll break that one down in just a moment. This heat's starting to run out of time. An all Hawaiian battle. Will Keanu take the lead? We'll find out right after this. Welcome back to round 3, heat number 8. Round 2, round 3 have all been heavy for the world title race here at the Moche Rip Curl Pro Portugal. There's a lot on the line for every member of the top 34. In this matchup, it's an all-Hawaiian matchup. Keanu right on the cut line for requalification. This is an important heat for him. Florence, number 15 in the world, is looking to really move back into a final series. Before we went to break, Keanu blitzed this left and got the score to take the lead.
Yeah, a couple of beautiful turns right there, Joe. And finished off nice and strong. You know, I always believe Keanu's backhand is deadly, and we just saw a little bit of it right there. John needs to answer back, needs a 5.10, a couple of quick turns. Wave goes frothy. Can John get around this section? Pulls into a little cover-up and rides out of it. So John needing a 5.10. Is that going to be enough to get him back into the lead? We talk about those low-scoring seesaw battles. You know, there's a single high score of an 8.33 from John, but since then he's really struggled to get anything over that 4-point range, Joe.
What an interesting battle. Couple different lead changes. Keanu Asing a 6.5 on the backhand. Was able to take the lead. Now numbers dropping for Florence. Member needed a 5.10. A messy little looking right with a lot of foam on the face. It's a 4.8. Not enough. One judge on the panel thought it was just enough to turn it. The other 4 said not enough. And now down to a minute 30. Last year, Florence was in this event with a shot at potentially being in the world title race after having such an amazing run. Keanu Asing's still enjoying his rookie year on tour, where the focus has been on the goofy foot Brazilians of Wiggly Dantas and Italo Ferreira for their success winning some big matchups.
Yeah, you know, and I mean, we've seen some highlights from Keanu as well. I mean, the kid's got game. He's on the world tour for a reason. We just haven't seen enough. You know, he's had some magic moments. You just got to go back to Rio de Janeiro where he's surfed incredibly well. And here again, I mean, he's got John against the ropes with 50 seconds remaining. He's got to somehow try and hold John off as we see a couple of good sets going through. Both guys out of position. One more wave right here. 40 seconds remaining. Both surfers a little too deep on that occasion. Keanu holds the inside position and priority, Joe.
So the shifty lineup of Super Tubos having John and Keanu dance back and forth. Asing has the lead and priority. And looks like he will take this wave off Florence. Bottom turn. Little knife off the top. Carves it into a pretty bouncy inside corner. He'll just look out the back to see the ocean staying flat as we have 10 seconds on the clock.
Wow.
Florence left chasing a 5.10. and he's going to run out of time. Ah Sing takes out another huge name in his rookie year and moves on to round 4.
Wow, well, the upsets continue. Keanu Singh surfed a great heat. Stayed in the game, John. That's what you got to do. Even with that high score of an 8.33, we talked about it in the beginning. You've got to back those good ones up, right? And John just unfortunately didn't do that. His backup was a 4.83. At this stage of the game, not enough.
What a powerful backhand attack from Ah Sing. Also doing airs. He was smiling on his finishing moves. You could tell how comfortable he felt in the jersey, knowing the task at hand and taking out one of the best surfers in the world. Florence will be shaking this loss off. And the name keeps getting bigger for young Keanu Ah Sing, making his family so proud. Comes from a family of athletes and dedication. And right there, we continue this theme with the blue jerseys taking out the red jerseys, the higher seeds in the contest. And Keanu's already psyched and ready to go. And Chelsea Cannell is getting all set up as well. Take it away, Chelsea.
Hey guys, I am here with Keanu. Keanu, that was such a big win for you. There's been so much energy on the beach, a lot of upsets in the water. How did you maintain focus?
You know, I just thank the Lord each and every day, and I got Damien Hopgood with me over here. It's just so surreal, you know. Just having this moment, this time of year is a clutch performance for me, and you know, all respect to John, and you know, just to surf against him is just an honor, you know. You know, I'm just so elated. I'm so happy. You know, I just gotta thank the Lord.
You have a chance to better your event standing. You also have a chance to requalify. A lot on the line here for you. Where is your focus and your heart? We know your hashtag is heart over height, so where is it?
You know, my focus is just trying my best. You know, I never said I was the best. I never said, you know, I'm just blessed to be here. And, you know, I did say that I'm going to try my hardest, and that's what I do each and every day. And, you know, for me, it just came down to, you know, every day I talk to Damon, he always tells me, he's like, today, you know, you don't stretch and you don't do everything you do every single day and for nothing. And this is, you know, it all comes down to this. You need to just push hard and come through. And, you know, I'm just happy he's here for me. And, yeah, I'm just stoked.
Congratulations. Thanks. Go celebrate that win. We're going to take a quick break, but we'll be back with more.